Good afternoon and welcome to GBB News. I'm Lewis Mason.
And I'm Madeline Hearn. Your top stories this afternoon.
The US presidential race is reaching its final showdown.
It's not just a choice between two parties or candidates, it's a choice between two different visions of America.
The Jimmy Savile sex abuse saga continues as a BBC inquiry is launched.
And we have the latest on the Chelsea racism controversy. But first, our top story this afternoon. Both candidates for the US election have started their final push for winning the country's vote. Barack Obama and Mitt Romney's tours finished tonight as they try to convince undecided voters to back them.
The final straight will see Obama finishing in Chicago with opposition Romney in Boston. So far, both men have been neck and neck in what is said to be one of the closest presidential races in recent history.
It's not just a choice between two parties or candidates, it's a choice between two different visions of America.
This is a challenge which I have for you. I need you to go out and convince people to get behind us, to vote, to join our team. One final push will get us there.
If you want to watch the latest developments, check out our live stream at www.gbbnews.com.
In the UK, the inquiry into the BBC continues as police investigate more child sex abuse claims. The organisation's culture and its practices will come under fire in the investigation. Matt Evans has this report.
An inquiry into the BBC's culture and practices begins today. It comes after allegations of child sex abuse perpetrated by one of the broadcaster's biggest stars, Jimmy Savile, with some 300 alleged victims coming forward in recent weeks. The inquiry starts today after the convicted paedophile Gary Glitter was questioned on suspicion of sexual offences. Glitter's arrest is the first in the winding police probe into activities of Savile and others around him. Janet Smith, a former Court of Appeal judge, is heading the independent review into the British Broadcasting Corporation's culture and practices during the decade that Savile worked for the National Institution. Smith will also examine whether the BBC's child protection and whistleblowing policies are fit for purpose. Her remit also includes the extent to which BBC staff were aware of Savile's conduct on the broadcaster's premises. Savile, who died last year at the age of 84, has been described as one of the most prolific sex offenders in recent UK history. The claims against Savile have plunged the BBC into crisis and destroyed the reputation of one of the most famous faces of British television from the 1960s through to the 1980s. The Director General of the BBC, George Entwistle, outlines the Commons Select Committee that the allegations have tarnished the reputation of the corporation.
There is no question that what Jimmy Savile did and the way the BBC behaved in the years, that the culture and practices of the BBC seemed to allow Jimmy Savile to do what he did, will raise questions of trust for us and reputation for us. There is no question about that. This is a gravely serious matter, and one cannot look back at it with anything other than horror, frankly.
Matt Evans, the lunchtime news at the BBC Television Centre.
Now, the east coast of America has been hit by a fuel crisis following the destruction caused by Hurricane Sandy. Huge queues of traffic have formed outside many petrol stations as frustrated drivers wait to fill up.
The storm has left many homes and businesses without power, causing the area to come to a standstill. The Mayor of New York predicts that queues will shorten as power supplies begin to come back. But for those living in the area, this couldn't come soon enough.
I've been waiting in this line for over an hour and a half. Pretty close to 2 hours.
We have no lights, no gas. Everything is down in Jersey City. So we drove all the way here and we ran out of gas on the way coming. So we had to walk the rest of the way to get gas.
And then we're stuck. No work, right?
Back in the UK, a report released today reveals that 20% of families are being forced into a lower standard of living due to minimal rates of pay. Jordan Buckingham has more on this story.
A familiar sight, the Monday morning commute in full flow up and down the UK. However, 1 in 5 of these British workers are being paid less than the living wage. Findings by research consultants KPMG show that 70% of cleaners, kitchen staff and waiters are paid less than the living wage. Paul Sellers from the Trades Union Congress explains the living wage and the impact of these findings.
Well, the living wage is a rate that's calculated as the least amount of earnings that somebody can have a simple but decent life on. So it's £7.20 outside of London and £8.30 here in the capital where we're standing now. Now, what that means is if you earn rather less than that, then you're going to have to make really, really tough choices, like between buying a winter coat and buying a present for your child on their birthday. It can't be right that in the UK there are 5 million people who don't have the minimum decent standard of earnings, and of course that's something that as the TUC we're actively working to change. I mean that's far too many. You know, nearly 5 million people are really below what's effectively the poverty line.
These findings put the government under more pressure after they rejected calls to increase the minimum wage to living wage levels. This is Jordan Buckingham reporting for GBB News.
In other news, a woman has died in a house fire in Birmingham. 3 other people were taken to hospital following the blaze. West Midlands Fire Brigade were called to Speedwell Road, Edgbaston at 7 a.m. this morning. The condition of the 3 survivors is still not known and the police are treating the fire as suspicious.
A 16-year-old boy from Greater Manchester has died after a hit-and-run incident. Callum Hilton was on his way to a party on Saturday evening when he was hit by a silver Peugeot. Yesterday, a man from Radcliffe in Bury was arrested and remains in custody for questioning. Tributes have been made to the teenager, with over 800 people joining a Facebook group called Justice for Callum Hilton.
In the last few minutes, there have been developments in the Jimmy Savile sex abuse investigation. Comedian Freddie Starr has been arrested at his Warwickshire home on suspicion of sexual offences. This comes just days after Starr was accused of abusing Karen Ward when the pair met on 70s TV show Clunk Click.
I was horribly, horribly humiliated by Freddie Starr, who had a very bad attack of wandering hands and had groped me, and I didn't like him because he smelled like my stepfather, and it frightened me and freaked me out, and I rebuffed him.
For all the latest information on this breaking news, please visit our website at www.gbbnews.com.
That's it from us. Here's Sarah with all your latest sports news. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good afternoon. Your top sports stories this hour. It's been another turbulent week off the field for Chelsea Football Club as images have been released of a supporter appearing to racially abuse an opposition player. Our sports correspondent, Charlie Smith, has more on this story.
These are the images that appeared to show a Chelsea supporter making racist gestures towards Manchester United striker Danny Welbeck. Chelsea have been quick to release a statement regarding their view on the incident. Chelsea Football Club can confirm we are investigating an incident involving a member of the crowd at Wednesday night's game against Manchester United. The club will be examining all available footage and ask for anyone who can identify the individual to contact the club. They go on to say, Chelsea FC is committed to removing all forms of discrimination, and if we have sufficient evidence, we will take the strongest possible action, including supporting criminal investigation. All this comes just days after the two sides' controversial Premier League game, where now match referee Mark Clattenburg is under investigation by the FA and Met Police for using inappropriate language against Chelsea midfielder John Obi Mikel. But Manchester United manager Sir Alex Ferguson is not convinced by the allegations.
Well, I don't believe Mark Clattenburg would make any comments like that. I refuse to believe it. I think it's unthinkable. In the modern climate, I just don't believe it. Simple as that.
It's been a difficult time for the West London club, with a number of racial-related incidents over the past year. Their captain John Terry was suspended for 4 games by the FA for being found guilty of racially abusing QPR defender Anton Ferdinand. And back in March, the club gave a lifetime ban to a supporter who admitted racially abusing former player Didier Drogba. Chelsea will have to try and concentrate on their football this week when they take on Shakhtar Donetsk in a game that will be crucial in the defence of their Champions League title. This is Charlie Smith reporting for GBB News at Stamford Bridge.
Roberto Mancini has dismissed Manchester City's chances of winning the Champions League. The Italian manager claims his side is not ready to challenge Europe's elite and compares the situation to that of Chelsea. It took the current champions 12 years to win Europe's top prize. City take on Ajax tomorrow night in a must-win game after collecting just 2 points from their opening 3 group games. Now in cricket, a scan has revealed that Stuart Broad's foot injury is not as bad as first feared. The England vice-captain is expected to be fit for the first test against India starting next week, despite being diagnosed with a bruised heel. The World ATP Tennis Finals begin at the O2 Arena today, and former Wimbledon champion Pat Cash can't wait for the event to begin.
Look, it's the end of the year. It's a season finale with the best 8 players in the world, and this year, of course, a lot of excitement being that Murray's done so well, and of course, it's always interesting when Federer's coming back to defend his title, being the end of the year championships, it really is the ATP Tour, which is the Association of Tennis Professionals Tour, and the players play the whole year, gather ranking points and add it up at the end, and the top 8 players get in. So there's always some dark horses in there. Being the best 8 players in the world, really anybody can win the title. So very exciting.
To motor racing now, and Kimi Raikkonen has won the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This was his first win of the season and the first time that Lotus has been top of the podium since 1987. Meanwhile, McLaren's problems continued as Lewis Hamilton was forced to retire due to a fuel pump failure. Jenson Button finished in 4th. And finally in golf, a 14-year-old Chinese golfer is set to make history. Tianlan Guan will become the youngest ever participant of the Masters. The young golfer gained the position after securing a victory in the Asia-Pacific Amateur Championship. So for all of our latest updates, please go to gbbnews.com/sport, and I'll be back with more this evening. From the team, good night.